So I want you to picture the global supply chain as like a massive sleeping beast, just this giant dragon resting on a huge hoard of
Right,
golds.
completely at peace.
Exactly. It's quiet.
Yeah.
Everything is perfectly balanced. The inputs and outputs are humming along in this steady, totally predictable rhythm.
Until it isn't.
Right. Until, say, one single cargo ship gets stuck sideways in a distant canal. Just a tiny, almost imperceptible disruption. But suddenly, the beast wakes up.
It starts thrashing.
It thrashes, it breathes fire, and within, like, weeks, we're looking at empty shelves, massive inflation, factory shutdowns all over the globe.
Yeah, absolute chaos.
And that is exactly what we are getting into today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We aren't looking at neat, predictable spreadsheets today. We are exploring a stack of sources that offer a completely wild, but honestly incredibly dense framework for understanding the chaos of our modern world.
It's a really unique synthesis, honestly. The material we're covering today takes ancient occult traditions, Kabbalistic alchemy, and mythological dragon magic, and it literally layers them directly over cutting-edge systems theory.
And complex adaptive systems, which is just so cool. So the mission for this deep dive is to decode that mystical language and extract the actual practical framework buried inside it.
Because there really is a practical framework there.
There is. We're going to explore how viewing the chaotic, non-linear systems of our lives, from global economies right down to the arguments in our own households, as dragons can fundamentally change how we navigate them.
Right.
Seeing network hierarchies explained through, like, high fantasy concepts is such a thrill. It feels like uncovering a secret manual for operating reality.
It really is a captivating way to look at the world. But, we have to remember why ancient humans used this kind of extreme imagery in the first place.
Right, because they didn't have the math.
Exactly. They didn't have the mathematical vocabulary for nonlinear dynamics. They didn't have models for fractal geometry or asymmetric feedback loops, so they used myth.
They used dragons.
They used the terrifying, awe-inspiring image of a dragon to describe these massive, overwhelming phenomena that they just couldn't control. And today, we can use those exact same metaphors to map out the muddy waters of modern complex systems.
But we have to map the esoteric metaphor to our actual reality first, right? Like, for you listening, we need to define our terms.
Yeah.
In the context of these texts, what exactly is a dragon?
Simply put, a dragon represents an integrated whole of interacting parts, a complex system.
Okay.
If you visualize a dragon in a cave, its lair represents the system's boundary. It's that invisible line distinguishing what is inside the system from the external environment.
Like the walls of a company or the borders of an ecosystem.
Right. And its hoard, the treasure it fiercely protects, represents the system's inputs. And its fire, what it breathes out into the world, represents the outputs.
So that sleeping dragon on a pile of gold I mentioned earlier, that's basically just a complex system at equilibrium.
Exactly. The inputs and outputs are perfectly balanced.
Okay, but complex systems are inherently nonlinear, right? They don't just scale up or down smoothly.
No, they don't, because every single node is highly interconnected. So a tiny provocation like that cargo ship in the canal triggers a cascading failure.
The text calls this the dragon's wrath, which sounds awesome.
It does sound awesome. In modern science, we just call it sensitivity to initial conditions,
Right.
Or, the butterfly effect.
Right, the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
But the texts take it a step further than that. They describe a dragon caught in a storm, completely losing its mind, thrashing about, wasting vast amounts of energy.
And the collateral damage is catastrophic.
Yeah. So what is that thrashing actually representing?
That thrashing represents a system in what's called liminal disequilibrium. It has lost its baseline balance and is desperately seeking a new, strange attractor.
A strange attractor, meaning like a new normal.
Essentially, yes. A new nucleus or pattern that the system can stabilize around. But while it searches for that new normal, it thrashes. And this brings in a core concept from the esoteric texts, the Ouroboros, or the dragon ring.
The classic image of the serpent eating its own tail.
Yes. The Ouroboros symbolizes the feedback and feed-forward loops that dictate how dynamic systems behave. When a system is thrashing, those feedback loops are amplifying the chaos rather than dampening it.
Wow, okay.
So understanding the system as a living, breathing entity really demands respect. You cannot treat a thrashing dragon like a broken machine.
You can't just wrench a lever or force a gear back into place.
Exactly. You have to understand the feedback loops driving its behavior.
Which brings us to, frankly, survival. Because if you and I are completely surrounded by these massive volatile dragons, How do we avoid getting burned when they start thrashing?
Well, the sources outline two distinct archetypes for mastering this complexity, the Dragon Rider and the Dragon Whisperer.
Okay, let's start with the writer.
So, the Dragon Rider is an archetype of extreme resilience and active direction. The rider operates from the eye of the hurricane, finding the dead center of equilibrium while the chaos spins around them.
Which is easier said than done.
Definitely. But they rely on two main tools for defense, a magic compass to navigate the unpredictability, and dragon scale armor.
Dragon scale armor. So in a real-world scenario, what is that?
That armor represents the systemic safeguards, redundancies, and resilience mechanisms you build before the storm actually hits.
Got it. Emergency funds, backup servers, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And to actually steer the beast, the rider uses something called operant fire.
Operant fire.
Right, they are actively directing the dragon's immense strength toward a specific outcome. But then there is the Dragon Whisperer, who takes an entirely different, almost invisible approach.
Yeah, I found the Whisperer fascinating. Because they don't mount the dragon at all, right?
No, they don't. They use subtle influence. The texts describe them using a soothing song to calm an overactive system and mitigate the collateral damage.
Or they act as a chaos catalyst.
Yes, which is the flip side. This means they intentionally provoke liminality.
They stir the pot.
Exactly. They introduce a carefully calibrated spark of chaos into a stagnant system to force it to transform. They weaponize the system's sensitivity to initial conditions.
Okay, I have to call out what sounds like massive hubris here.
Hubris. How so?
Well, isn't the idea of riding or even whispering to a chaotic system just an illusion of control? I mean, if a dragon represents the global economy or a sudden technological revolution, how can one person truly steer something so vastly larger than themselves?
It does sound like absolute hubris. And if you look at the sheer scale of a global market, individuals shouldn't matter at all. But the texts argue that it is not about brute force. A whisperer doesn't arm wrestle the dragon.
Okay.
They leverage the dragon's lineage.
The dragon's lineage, meaning what? The historical patterns?
The historical patterns and the inherent rules the system is already bound by. A complex system is constrained by its own architecture. The whisperer uses the whispering wind of subtle influence precisely because massive systems are hypersensitive to small, perfectly timed inputs.
Oh, like a viral social media trend.
Exactly, or a subtle shift in a central bank's language. A tiny input applied at the exact structural tipping point cascades through those feedback loops. It is about guiding emergence, not forcing compliance.
It's like a keto. You use the opponent's weight to throw them.
Exactly like a keto.
But to actually exert that subtle influence, to find that tipping point and apply the whispering wind, these operators need tools. And this is where the text moves straight out of modern systems theory and plunges right into Kabbalistic alchemy to explain the mechanism of action.
Right. We enter the realm of the toolkit of reality, and the foundational tool here is Kabbalistic cinnabar, otherwise known as living sulfur.
Living sulfur. We are fully in the realm of high fantasy now. I love it.
The terminology is definitely arcane, but the mechanism is fascinating. Living sulfur is defined as the second alchemical key.
And what does it do?
Its purpose is to enliven matter. It imbues physical space with information fields and animates static environments through a process called transsignification.
Transsignification. Okay, the sources actually ground this in a very specific narrative, don't they?
They do. They describe a class taught by an archmagus named Serap.
Right, Serap. And Serap is teaching his students sympathetic magic using elemental fire, which they call teos.
Yes, teos.
And he uses these devices called fluid condensers of electric potential. He concentrates this potential onto paper sigils and then burns the sigils to direct the energy.
But he gives them a very explicit warning.
Yeah, he warns his students that this fire can purify a space and reveal the theoria, the divine light. Or, if used without wisdom, it can cast dark shadows and inflame the worst parts of the imagination.
Right. And the output of Serap's magic are what the text calls alchemical volts.
Alchemical volts.
Yes. These are described as holographic dynamides. The text calls them virtual salamanders that leap across boundaries using electron entanglement to literally rewrite reality.
Okay, we need to translate this for the listener, because when I read about alchemical volts and enlivening space, my brain immediately went to coding.
Coding.
Yeah, like a programmer writes a subroutine, packages it into a data packet, and sends it across a network to change how a machine operates. The Magus is doing the exact same thing, but instead of coding a server, they are coding physical reality and human emotion.
Wow, that is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. Let's ground Serap's paper sigils and fluid condensers in a modern environment then, say, a massive corporate hierarchy.
Okay, let's do it.
A paper sigil isn't necessarily a magical drawing, right? It is a concentrated piece of information, a radically transparent company memo, or a perfectly worded policy change.
Oh, I see.
And the fluid condenser is the emotional authority and the cultural weight behind that communication. So when you burn the sigil, when you release that information into the wild, the alchemical volts are the ideas leaping from person to person.
Social contagion.
Exactly. You are rewriting the information field of that corporate space.
You're changing the atmosphere of the room. You are transignifying the environment from a place of fear into a place of innovation, just by how you inject information into the network hierarchy.
Yes. And the psychological depth of Serap's lesson is absolutely vital for anyone trying to execute this. He teaches that fire serves life by combustion, yet consumes not the wick.
Consumes not the wick. That is so evocative.
It is, because the magic isn't merely about manipulating external variables. It requires harnessing your own internal passions, your inner fire.
Right.
You need massive ambition and drive to act as a chaos catalyst or a whisperer, but you have to achieve generative creativity. You generate the heat to transform the system without burning yourself out.
Because if you consume your own wick,
The magic fails and the dragon crushes you.
sustained passion without burnout, the ultimate systems management goal. So we have these tools, the ability to transignify spaces, to deploy alchemical volts, but who is actually doing this? Because the sources outline this vast, clandestine organization dedicated to shepherding these complex systems across multiple scales.
Yes, the texts introduce the phalanx.
For phalanx.
This is described as an undercover network of writers, whisper masters, and asymmetrical operatives, and they conduct their campaigns in what the sources call littoral zones.
Now, in geography, a littoral zone is the space between the high and low water marks on a coastline, right? It's a transitional space.
Exactly. And here, it's a metaphor for diverse psychosocial terrains. The phalanx operates in the gray areas of society,
Like the intersections between different cultures.
or between conflicting economic classes or competing scientific disciplines. They act in these liminal spaces to catalyze benevolent change, heal overtaxed ecologies, and subtly orchestrate historical golden ages.
It's wild to think about. A real-world phalanx operative could be like a rogue middle manager quietly shifting a toxic corporate culture from the inside, or a community organizer working in the intersection of local government and neighborhood activism.
Right. And they operate on incredibly specific levels. The texts outline the scales of dragons.
scales, yeah.
You have the Civitas Draconis representing municipalities and citywide systems. You have the Informis Draconis, the emergent artifacts and algorithms living inside our digital networks.
Which is terrifying, honestly.
It is. And they even scale down to nano-dragons or swarms, which govern the molecular and cellular levels.
You know, the scale that really hit home for me was the Domus Draconis.
The household dragger.
The household or domestic system, yes. To look at a bitter argument in your kitchen with your partner and realize, my Domus Draconis is in liminal disequilibrium right now.
Yes.
The household dragon is caught in a storm, it's thrashing and causing collateral damage to the family.
Yeah.
And the text provides this magical command, Domus Serenitas, as the spell to calm it.
Domus Serenitas.
What a brilliant metaphor for stepping back, identifying the feedback loops causing the argument, and actively deploying a soothing song to restore peace to your domestic system. I might actually yell that next time.
Well, maybe don't yell it, but the concept is profound. It proves that the principles of dragon magic are universally applicable.
Right.
Whether you are an operative in the phalanx trying to guide global trade, the Commerce Draconis, or you are simply trying to bring harmony to your living room, systems management scales perfectly.
Because it's fractal.
Exactly. You identify the boundaries, you map the inputs and outputs, and you apply subtle influence to guide the system back to a strange attractor of peace.
But there is a massive catch here, isn't there?
A huge catch.
Because you cannot whisper a soothing song to your household dragon if your own internal system is thrashing. The sources make a hard, definitive pivot here. To manage the dragons of the external world, you must first conquer the dragon within.
Yes. The texts localize this internal battle in the 11th house, introducing a figure named Nessiel. Nessiel is the little knight, a homunculus that lives inside our psychodynamic connectome.
The psychodynamic connectome, meaning the intricate neural and emotional network of our own mind.
Exactly. Nessiel represents our conscious will, and he must do battle with the internal dragon of chaos to achieve psychological coherence. Without this victory, there is no integrated self.
And the sources map this internal conflict directly to elemental forces. The reasoning, logical mind is air. Our deep subconscious instincts and hidden drives are water.
Right.
And the physical bodily tensions we carry, like the knot in your stomach or your tight shoulders, those are described as the battleground between sky gods representing order and storm dragons representing chaos.
And surviving that specific battle produces the most important artifact in the entire mythology.
The Eldenari.
The Eldenari, the dragon's heart.
Okay, tell us about the Eldenari.
In the lore, the Eldenari is a crystal. It acts as a perfect record of all lived experiences, all accrued lore, and all the dragon magic a dragon has gathered over its lifetime. When a dragon passes, it bequeaths this crystal to its rider. The hard-won system's knowledge is crystallized, so it lives on forever, serving as a beacon of guidance for posterity.
Okay, I love the poetry of that, but I have to challenge the core philosophy here.
Go for it.
Throughout these texts, the Dragon of Chaos is framed as a terrifying threat. The material explicitly warns that encountering unmitigated chaos can lead to, like, psychotic destabilization.
It does warn about that, yes.
If it's that dangerous, why engage with it at all? Why shouldn't we just seek pure order? Build a rigid, perfectly safe, walled-off life where the storm dragon can never reach us?
Well, seeking absolute order is a deeply human instinct, especially when things feel out of control.
Naturally.
But in systems theory, a system with pure rigid order is a dead system. It cannot adapt. The text asserts that the Dragon of Chaos is actually the source of power for any dragon rider.
Wait, the chaos is the engine.
The chaos is the engine. Without chaos, there is no emergence, there is no transformation or complexity. By bravely facing our internal liminal states, our periods of profound confusion, grief, or systemic breakdown, we are forcing our internal architecture to adapt.
We are sculpting our character.
Exactly. You only earn the Eldenari by surviving the fires of the Storm Dragon.
That reframes the entire concept of going through a hard time. You aren't just suffering, you are doing the brutal work of adaptation.
You are gathering the raw material for wisdom.
Wow. Okay, to pull all of this together for you listening, the ultimate takeaway from this incredibly dense, magical framework is that our world isn't a dead, mechanical clockwork.
No, it isn't.
You can't just force reality into a spreadsheet. The world is an enlivened, dynamic ecology of massive, highly sensitive systems.
And by understanding how those systems breathe, recognizing their feedback loops, respecting their boundaries, and embracing the power of subtle influence, you can actually navigate them without getting burned.
You can become a dragon whisperer. And it all begins by mastering the alchemy of your own inner fire, ensuring your passion generates creativity without consuming your own wick.
Which leaves us with a final reflection drawn straight from the heart of these esoteric sources.
What is it?
Every time you are forced to navigate a chaotic period in your life, whether that's a terrifying career pivot, a deeply painful relationship struggle, or a crisis of faith, you are accruing incredibly rare systems knowledge. You are inside the storm battling the dragon.
Yeah.
So consider the concept of the Eldenari. What crystallized wisdom are you currently forming in the fires of your own chaotic battles right now? And who will you ultimately bequeath that dragon's heart to?